Okay, so today we're going to make a new crosscut jig. The one I have here, I've had for years. It's you can see it's a little wobbly. That's not good. Shouldn't do that. It needs to rest flat and straight in order for it to work. So we're going to make a new one in the saw and make sure it's good both ways there. Now the problem is I can't set the fence using this caliper because it's not, the prongs aren't long enough to reach beyond the fence here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a permanent marker to go ahead and mark on the plate here that I can set the fence to. Now that mark will give us an approximate width to cut, a little oversized, and that's fine because then we can just trim it down little by little till it fits perfectly in the channel here. Okay, now we're going to use our old crosscut jig to trim off the fence piece we're going to do here. Now you can see that this piece of hardwood isn't quite trimmed up enough to fit in there yet, but we're going to trim off a tiny bit until we get in there nice and snug but are still able to move. Now just to trim off a little, all you need to do is put your piece of wood into the saw, move the fence up to where it's just touching the blade, and then lock the fence down. And that'll just give you enough to trim off, hopefully to fit right in there. Okay, so now you can see we fit nice and snug in here, not too much movement. Just like that. Now we're going to have to trim the top off so that it fits just underneath the surface of the table so that the cross-cutting jig can move across without being lifted off the table. Okay, now we have our piece of wood trimmed for a groove. Fits in there nicely. It's just below the surface, just where we need it. Okay, now what you want to do, we got our channel piece cut here. We're going to take our jig board and just put it slightly over the blade, maybe about 1/4 inch or so. What we're going to do is we're going to mark for how we're going to fasten this guide wood here. 5.5 inches. I'm going to measure 5.5 inches here. That's all we need. Okay, now that we got our board marked, we're going to take some plain old Tide Bond here. and give us a nice little bead. Doesn't take much, it doesn't have to be real neat. This is just a jig, so close enough is good enough. Go ahead and get our glue there. Get our piece of wood on here aligned. Okay, so we're going to be using, we got this glued down now. We're going to be using these screws on the top side, just 3 of them, just to hold it till the glue sets, and then we'll go ahead and trim off the tips that are sticking out here. So I got my drill bit here, make it go a little easier, so we just need one right here. One in the middle. One towards the end here. Then we flip it over and we put our screws in. Nice and flush. Nice and flush. Nice and flush. Okay, now what we're going to do is just grind off the tips here. Okay, now you see that our jig runs smoothly across the table saw now. Now, what makes this so square is everything is going to be in reference to the cut of the blade. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring the blade up just high enough to cut through this board. I'm going to turn it on. Okay, next we're going to cut our fence piece. I use the same piece of wood that I used to make the jig for the channel. The jig is going to be 23¼ inches wide because I shaved some off to straighten it out. This is the old cross-cut jig here. You can see it's seen its better days. But anyway, it doesn't have to be that accurate, just enough to fit loosely on or accurately on the board. The piece of oak I was going to use was a little warped, wasn't perfectly straight like this piece is. So for the fence, I'm just going to use this scrap piece of pine here. It doesn't need to be hardwood necessarily. That's more important for the channel piece. But anyway, process is the same. We're going to go ahead and lay down our bead of glue here. Just a little bit of Tide Bond. Okay. Go ahead and set in our piece of wood. Just clamp it a little loose first so you can get it adjusted perfectly on the line. It's a little loose. Get that perfectly on there and tighten it. Then we're going to shoot in our screws. Our screws right here.